Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole. I bet you guys weren't expecting me to say that this time. Usually that's Jeremy's job. Now I feel special. But today we have something a little different for everybody, something I'm actually pretty excited for. We have a super special guest on today to talk about some pretty cool stuff that he's got going on and some other topics as well. Fair warning, this is kind of a last minute guest here, so we're just going to shoot from the hip. But before I get too deep into it and before I introduce the guest, I'm going to bring on my new co-hosts for my new show since I won the lottery, if you guys remember from the last episode.
That's not true.
We got Jeremy, since he wanted to chime in and say it wasn't true. Jeremy, what's up, bud?
Not much. I'm excited to listen to you trip over yourself. This is going to be great.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Also, we got Kenzar, the new kid Kenzar. What's up, Kenzar?
Hello. What's up? Not a whole lot for me.
Fair enough. Jake, what's up, brother?
Oh, it's a great day here in Southern California. I just got home from work, rode the bike today. It was fantastic. Super stoked that you're actually doing the intro this time and not having me cover for you. So
you're welcome.
I was getting ready to wing it. Like, I was ready.
Now, children.
It's all right. I'm good at winging it. It's what I do. And then last but definitely not least, our super special guest for the day. This man, he is a comedian. He is a director. He is a filmmaker, a writer. This guy hopefully will have some mind-blowing information today. I'm sure that we'll get into some crazy stuff. But this is Brian Moreno, the director and creator of Dreamland, a storming Area 51 story. Brian, what is up, brother?
Hello. Pleasure to be here. And thank you and your entire crew here. You got a whole baseball team working this podcast. I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We like to have a lot of voices on this show. Sometimes, we like to talk over each other, but that's what we've got.
What do you mean? We don't do that at all.
No, we don't.
Yeah, no, we've
never
done
not
that.
once.
Yeah, there you go. Clap track for you. Perfect.
So, no, I actually I have my soundboard in front of me. That was me. I just had to make sure it still worked in case I started bombing. Like, I always have that.
Genius, dude. I need to do that. Oh man, if I would have too much fun with that, Jeremy would be going off on these tangents about this. Like he'll write up a script full of notes and stuff.
Crickets, yeah.
I'm sure you guys were like, who the hell brought a laugh track? That's crazy.
I actually thought that was Jeremy when I heard.
I thought it was Jeff.
Yeah,
I thought it was Jake.
I have all kinds.
Oh, there you go.
So now we know.
Good times. Oh man. So, anyways, yeah, Brian. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Your background. Tell us, give us a short biography. Who are you?
Sure. I'm not just the guy that comes in a podcast with an audience clapping. Right? I'm about 12 years. This will be my 12th year doing stand-up comedy. Before that, I was a failed actor. And then before that, I was the West Coast public relations manager of the Wall Street Journal. So I've had like a crazy career to get to where I'm at. Throughout the course of my comedy career, I started doing shorter videos, comedy sketches, whatever you want to call them. Some of them went pretty viral. And the last one we did, it was an exact replication of Ancient Aliens. It was called Ancient Aliens, Aliens in Comedy. And you can find it on my YouTube. It hit like between Funny or Die and a few other websites, it hit like 25, 30 million views. Giorgio Tsoukalos started following me on Twitter. It was like at the time, it was one of the highlights of my life. And at that moment in time, I stopped doing sketches. And that's where the whole idea of me starting to make movies. Like since I was a kid, I always thought I was going to make films. But once I started getting real traction in my shorter videos, I knew to break through, I was going to have to like really take a chance on something. And for about 2-3 years, I formulated a few ideas, and then the storming of Area 51 event happened. And that was the vehicle for my film Dreamland, a storming Area 51 story. It's a Curb Your Enthusiasm style documentary, but it is a real documentary, like by the letter of the law. Like it is a true documentary, but I've interjected a lot of comedy and a lot of excitement in order to tell a story about the people not only who stormed Area 51, but all the people who really believe in things that are like unseen or not easily understood.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I just came across your YouTube channel. It's Brian Moreno Comedy, right? Brian
Yes,
Moreno
sir.
Comedy.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yeah. Yeah, check that out. I'm gonna definitely watch this Ancient Aliens
I pulled it up
comedy.
too. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm
I used
on it.
to
Yeah,
I used to love
pretty,
that show.
That one's pretty awesome. And then there's another one I did on there called True Comedian. I don't know if you remember the show True Detective on HBO.
Yeah.
Well, we matched HBO exactly. Like the graphics guy even got a cease and desist because we used like their HBO sounds and stuff. But then because this was at the time when Vince Vaughn still had a Twitter, he tweeted out the original link to it, and he's like, this is what our season should have been. And so that's when I kind of knew I had to, like, because I wanted to tell real stories, like long form. And like the biggest, as a comedian, at least I'm kind of doing that. Like some people are much better joke writers than I am by far, but I think, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think I'm a little more interesting than some of them. So I've had to marry comedy with interesting in order to keep people on their toes and keep them laughing, but also keep them thinking. And that's what my movie is also trying to do. And so that's why, like I say, it's Dreamland, area51movie.com is the website for anyone who wants to check out. And you can see the trailer on there. We're, going through the festival circuit right now. I've had 4 different offers to purchase the movie, but so far nothing that I think is worthy. I don't know where the best home for the movie is going to be, but I do have faith in the universe on this one because like this movie had no script. It had just an idea in my brain. I gave all the players within the film, I gave them all beats to hit, but I didn't have any type of script. And for some of the stuff, I just had to put faith in the camera crew that they were capturing the stuff, because this is a very run and gun type of film. And when I say run and gun, I mean you have a camera crew and cameras and you're going. You don't have sets. You don't have set design. You're working with whatever lighting and sound conditions are thrown at you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Shit's
honestly.
wild. That is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons why people don't make movies like this. Trust me. I'm thankful to whatever you want to be thankful to, whatever you want to call it. But I am thankful because there are so many things that could have gone wrong in this, from the tires being low on because I rented 2 RVs and a Sprinter, and one of the RVs had basically bald tires when we got back. I'm like, how did this make it through the desert and back? Like, it was not, when I say bald, it was slick, like a freshly shaved head.
You're like, it's forecasted to rain for the next week. It's like, film, what are you waiting on?
Yeah, so it was a labor of love, and I put everything I had into it, and now I just hope to find it the right home. But I believe it's a very good product. This film Dreamland it's about inclusion. It's about showing people that we're not all that different. in some of the beliefs in some of these esoteric things, because there's a lot of parallels I try to make in this film. Even though it is a comedy documentary, there's a lot of parallels I try to make about people who are, say, religious, like altered, like from just barely religious to ultra religious. Like they're believing in things that are like unseen, and they're getting down and praying to things that are invisible. And to some of these people, aliens and extraterrestrials and their whatever their energy beings that they see, like it's the same thing to them. Like they believe in things that aren't easily explained or understood, or it's a faith-based thing. And no one group is right or wrong. Like so many people so much smarter than me have tried to explain this and have failed miserably. So this is a documentary that kind of shows the parallels while also entertaining. And that's a hard thing to do. And that's why I believe in my heart, in my mind's eye, that this movie will stand the test of time. Like it's very early. Like I really just finished it 3-4 months ago, and people think, oh, once you finish a movie, no. It's a very long, tedious process to sell a movie, to get it out, especially when you're an unknown like I am. Like I may be doing comedy and acting for, a better portion of my life, but I'm still rather unknown. Until you have more money behind you than what I do, you gotta grind, and you gotta push, and every day you gotta be marketing yourself, and it's not easy, but nothing is, right?
Yeah, that's the truth, man. So I saw the trailer for the film, and at first watching the trailer, like I watched it the first time, and I was like, "Is this like a satirical comedy about the storming of Area 51?" Because that's kind of how the trailer played to me the first
Well, there
time,
were
right?
two different trailers. There's an alternate, an early version, and then there's a more serious one that we went with.
Gotcha. So I might have seen the first one then, possibly. But then I heard you on Brian's or not Brian, Brandon's podcast, the Expanding Reality. Shout out to him. And I heard you explaining that it's not. I haven't seen the film. Full disclosure for everybody listening, I haven't seen the film yet, but you know, super excited to actually watch it. But then I heard you guys talking about how you do all these interviews with people, and how it's, even though it has the funny element, it's not like a satirical comedy. It is a documentary.
No, it's closer to something. I don't know how much you're into film, but there's a filmmaker, Werner Herzog. He was a great inspiration to me in this, because he was able to make, in his early days, he was able to make films, and he used all of his surroundings to tell the story, like whoever was around or whatever was there. And I felt like I could do that with this storming Area 51 event, because I had a pretty good idea that the event was going to be a failure. So to make a movie out of a failing event, you have to make it real. Like there has to be a level of personal connection to something within the film in order to get people to watch it. Because I think we all pretty much know that the event didn't turn out as expected. But that being said, the event would have been even less without me and my crew and the things that we did there and what we were able to capture. You'll see is definitely a piece of American history. It may be a small piece, but it represents this ever-growing subculture within the mainstream, and that's the UFOologists, and that's the CE5 people, and that's I guess just the alien heads, as I like to refer to them as, and those are the people that, and when I say alien heads, these are the people that just want to believe in something other than religion. They want to believe in, but they have no basis for any of their beliefs, except they're pretty much anti-religion or anti-establishment. And that's fine. Like you'd be like, people find their own way, all the time. But my movie highlights all of those groups, and I think the characters that I placed within the story, they represent a lot of these colors of the rainbow, because within like the whole UFOology rainbow, like there's these individual colors. Like there's the really hardcore people. There's the people that just believe one theory. There's the people that believe the whole rainbow. Like there's the people that think they're living among us. There's the people who have regular experiences, and there's the non-believers within that subculture also. The people that are like, oh yeah, I believe that there's more life out there, but I just don't know what form it is.
So on that, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
What is your idea of like what the UFOs, the UAPs are, Brian?
I would say 9 times out of 10, it's reverse engineered military stuff.
Heyo.
Maybe 8 out of 10, but like there's always the exception. But most of them, just by the design and how they are, it's some type of military craft. Because there's a point that's brought up in the film from a theorist that I interviewed. And he brought up a great point that I think about regularly, about how segmented the government is, how the Navy and the Air Force have no idea what each other's doing. And what better way to test your equipment than to test it on American military, on a different branch of the military. Okay. So I think a lot of it probably starts there. What other countries, including Russia and China, have in that type of aerial vehicle is really in question. But
well, because we can actually get a little insight on that idea, because we have our 2 resident Navy pogs who are a part of this show.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. I mean, I can tell you this for sure. Like the smartest person that I know who works for the government this was 10, 15 years ago. He was contracted to develop a radar system that tracks things that go over 700 miles an hour. Radar for just things that go over 700 miles an hour. Like, what goes over 700 miles an hour? It's not like, it's not missiles. It's not,
Well, what do you think about that, Jeremy? The Navy and the Air Force, not knowing what's going on.
Here's the thing. Brian is absolutely correct to a point, right? The military in general is very segmented. He's at Jake and I's rank. We don't know shit about what's going on with other branches. Now, there are a lot of joint operations, and then of course, when you get a lot higher, there's going to be more talk between each other, especially when you get to the secretaries and stuff. Brian is definitely onto something where, let's say the Air Force is testing something that's reverse engineered. Let's fly that bitch near Norfolk, Virginia, the biggest naval base, and see what happens. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting, because they can get a lot of stuff tested there, not just the ability of the aircraft, but also the ability of their defense systems, their radar tracking systems, shit, even FLIRs. Everything on a Navy base has a freaking FLIR on it.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. I'm under the same kind of belief as you, though, Brian, that most, if not all, of the UFO sightings are probably some black budget, craft that's being built, or maybe another country. Who knows? But I'm pretty much the space is fake guy, and the UFOs aren't aliens.
Okay, well, there's one thing that I hate to always point out to people, but if these interstellar beings are traveling that far to get here, why do they need like LED lights on their spacecraft?
I love that question. That's a great argument,
don't
actually.
you think they have mapping technology that doesn't need front LED lights? Like that is a very military thing to put on your spacecraft. Okay, it's just it's a very human thing to have on your vehicle. It's just, if there are interstellar beings, and this is how it's been explained to me, that our planet is like one of those small tribes in Africa. We see them as these primitive beings that don't even have the internet, that barely have any type of established society or culture. and our planet is simply a way station. They stop, they refuel, they do whatever. It's more than likely underwater it's more than likely in the oceans, in mountains, or the polar regions. But we are nothing but a primitive being to whatever may be out there. And some of the people that do tell me these things, I've really picked and prodded, and they are individuals that, they're not just believers. There's a lot of scientific, backing behind their theories. And that is the most logical way it's been explained to me. And that is what I lean towards. But then again, like, there's certain experiences that people have that do make you pause and make you wonder. And who am I to say it's wrong just because I don't experience it,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And let me ask you this, man, because you were at the storming of Area 51 event, which I actually thought about going to and selling water, because in my mind I was thinking, if these people are dumb enough to go raid Area 51, they're probably too dumb to bring water. So I was thinking about that. But what was like maybe the wildest thing that you saw? Like, what was the thing
Well,
that
see,
you saw?
that question, I can't wait for you to see the movie, because the wildest thing we saw was stuff that we did there, and you'll see. Like, I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but
Fair enough.
But the people that did go, because I got all the way to the gates and I interviewed some people there, and the wildest thing that I thought there is that right on the other side of the gate, there's like this little shack type thing, that cars have to check in with to go by. And there was like a dude dressed in all black taking photos and videos of everyone out there. Yeah, and that's the whole Big Brother thing, the government, like, you see like a Will Smith movie and they immediately map your face and they have your credit score next to you, and your outstanding bills, and
So you saw an actual Men in Black. Or
yeah,
Man in
yeah,
Black. Right.
yeah. So
That's pretty cool, though, man. Honestly,
Jeez.
yeah. Did you catch the Naruto run?
Yeah.
The memes of all the guys.
Yeah, of
running.
course. Well, yeah, it's in the movie. Yeah, that's why I was like, maybe you saw it.
To watch it. I can't wait to watch this, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, your listeners won't know, but we won our first festival. We were in a sci-fi and fantasy festival with Best Narrative, which is an honor. Now we're in the Malibu Film Fest, and because of certain regulations, they're still doing a virtual this year. But people can screen it for like 2-3 days. And to check the movie out, and everyone who's seen it has been they've been very surprised, and I can't wait for you guys to watch it, because it's it's a very good movie, and I'm not just saying that because I gave my life for it. It's when movies are good, you know it, like your eyes and your ears, like when you see really powerful art, it like you feel it. You vibrate differently, whatever it may be, whatever type of art, like story is art, poem, painting. Like when you're in the presence of great art, you feel it. You genuinely feel it in your bones. And this is something that, people feel it. And it makes me happy.
I don't want to give away too much, and I don't want you to give away too much about your movie, but I have some questions here that I'm dying to ask. First thing is, what were these people that were storming Area 51? What did they think they were gonna get? Like, what did they think that they were gonna find, or what did they think was at the end of this path that they were on?
Well, first off, let me be clear: is a lot of that storm Area 51 stuff, that was legitimate fake news. Like, the news was building up this story, and it kind of snowballed. And I heard, because we got there Friday night, but didn't get to the gates of Area 51 until Saturday. We heard that there were, on Friday night, some people out there, and then some drunk lady walked like past the gate. She was some older woman, and I guess she was just hammered. And, you know, but this
Slow
was like,
down, 51.
yeah, but it was like desert people, you know, like, so, like she was, you know, like there's, if you've ever been out in the desert, it's like these, she was just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck do I spend the night in jail? Like, what's the big deal? You know? So nobody was really storming. I mean, some, and it's in the movie, there were some YouTube guys got arrested doing something, but there, for the most part, most of the people there were very peaceful and very there just for a good time. You know, they were prepared. They didn't really have any intention of getting arrested. You know, I think most of the people were there just to see what was going to happen. And
Like
that
tailgate party.
That's what I would've
yeah,
been
and
there
that
for.
makes for a very, you know, uninteresting film unless you have a full story. So yeah, there's a lot more to my film than just that.
So you didn't like pay some kid to go up to like to the guard and punch him or anything like that? You didn't try to stoke the fire?
I mean, I didn't stoke it that way. I stoked it more with the movie. Yeah, like, you know, I prefer not to break federal law when stoking fires. Like,
Yes, good, good. Yes.
Were
a
there any?
Funny and
soft
smart.
rule, but
Was there anybody that was just flat out arrested just for being close, or were they having to do stuff?
no, you had to really cross and really make an effort to get arrested.
So I've always had this dream, right? I think I'm gonna have to bribe somebody, but I've always had this dream where it's a military base, right? If I know anything about military bases, they have a gas station, and in that gas station, they sell Area 51 patches and coins. And I need an Area 51 challenge coin for my collection. So I've thought
Yes.
about driving up to the gate with a coin for my current command and being like, "Hey, you want to trade?"
No way.
I don't know. It's just like I've heard they're super cool. They're rare
my
and
God.
I
they're
mean, there's
I-
only
I-
one way to find out.
and they have
Yeah, I
aliens
bet
on
it
them and
would
stuff.
be. Yeah, because
Right?
out there in Rachel, it's, I don't know, a town of 50 people or something. But there's one little inn, and there's a little breakfast place that you can get a decent little breakfast. And then they also have these wonderful tequila bottles that are in the shape of alien heads.
Oh,
I
nice.
wish I would have gotten more. It's the
What?
coolest. Yeah. It's
I
so,
want one.
Skull one.
yeah. So if you
I
get
just want
out
the bottle.
yeah, it's the Little Alien Inn. Little Alien Inn. I don't alien inn. How they grammatically, it's not spelled correctly, but
Little
that's what.
Alien.
Yeah, it's the Little
Yeah.
Alien Inn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
it's
looking at a
kind of
picture
like
of it right
the
now.
skull tequila then.
Yes, but it's the alien head. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that is pretty cool. So, damn, I had a question and it totally slipped my mind, like right as I opened my mouth.
You're thinking about
you
those
did-
challenge
you did
coins, I
me.
know.
Fuck.
So I don't know anything about the geography and the layout of Area 51, Groom Lake, whatever you want to call it, but where everyone was at, like with all the news channel cameras and everything, where you were you closer than most people were able to get to? Because I know there's like these rumors about cameras being like randomly out in the desert, infrared cameras and tripwires and
Well,
everything.
I'm sure okay. So when you see the movie, you'll see that there were two different groups, and one of the girls in the party, thank goodness she had the GoPro and everything out there, but she got to this point where it's called Sniper's Point. It's out there in the middle of the desert, and supposedly you're already on the. If you make it there, you're further than what you should be, because she crossed the sign that says no trespassing, da da da. So that's where I think she made it. But me, I just got to the actual gates, the front gates. It doesn't say Area 51, but it's the famous. The famous one where they have the stop poles and that's where they said people were going to storm. But if if you're to like, there's nowhere to go, you know, like you got to drive a long ways to get anywhere out there.
That gate is miles from anything interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the event, like I say, the event itself was an event that was big enough because for the movie to work, this had to be an event that people remembered, you know, that people really knew about. And people knew about this event, but it was such it was squashed so much by the government because they didn't want it to happen, you know, obviously.
Right.
They didn't want it was squashed so much and so thoroughly that because the original guy who planned it tried to move the festival to Vegas and changed everything all up. And I knew the event was, like I say, probably going to be a bust, but the event was more of a vehicle to tell a story about this group because 3 years ago, the alien UFO subculture was big. I think it's even bigger now. And it's,
absolutely.
You know, like the trajectory is going, you know, to becoming extremely mainstream.
Yeah.
If you don't think it is already, you know,
you still have a lot of podcasts and a lot of other people that will ask a question, and it bothers the shit out of me now. They'll say, "Do you believe in UFOs?" And it's dumb because the government, you know, here I am pogging away, right, and shilling away, but the government has come out and said, yes, UFOs are real, right? But you still have those people that are asking the question, "Do you believe in UFOs?" And there's still a lot of people out there, and under the cover of the C word, the pandemic that happened or is happening or whatever, the area of entertainment that we are in and the subject that we cover, this was huge news, and it got swept underneath the rug, and nobody heard it. Absolutely nobody heard it. Nobody.
Well, there's a couple points I want to make about that.
Go for it.
That I think a lot of people did hear it, but the government is very calculated in its release of any type of information. So I think it was maybe swept under the rug because it was maybe an acknowledgement, but it wasn't a substance enough like acknowledgement. Like there's no substance to it, you know. It didn't say it was any type of alien technology like UFO. Like the difference between a UFO and an alien is it's apples and oranges, you know. It's not even close. So
but they still came out and said, we don't know where they're from, what the origins are. Now, you know, Jake and I are military. And when we hear that, you know, I'm military and also interested in UFOs and the mystery behind them, right? It's sexy, not gonna lie. So when I hear that our military, our government, doesn't know where some of them are coming from, like you said, 80% of them.
It could be other governments testing out their technology for what?
Exactly, and that's where the military interest of my brain comes in. Is like, okay, is this another country, that, or is this something different? And that's where my new interest is shifted. Like, okay, it's been revealed. Now we need to figure out what it is, and people are still talking about, you know, do you believe in UFOs? Well, you know,
but there's also, just like anything else, I mean, when you're conditioned for so many years to think something isn't real, or it's just Hollywooded, or it's for crazy people, it takes a lot of reverse conditioning to get that out. And I worry when the government does release information because it's always so calculated and for a very self-serving interest. So I find that wary. I take a lot of pause when I hear these things because there's always a reason, and I'm not clear on the reason why they even said that, why they maybe maybe the people doing the study again are super biased and they had limited access to whatever it may be. But the bigger thing about the Tic Tac video that I'd like to bring up to people is the fact that whatever type of craft that was, it was able to manipulate gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Absolutely.
manipulation of gravity is like you're almost a god at that point in time.
Yeah, because we don't even know what gravity is yet.
No, I mean, you and I don't.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of physicists. I mean, if there's physicists.
Well, sure, no, there's a ton of physicists, but we have no idea what the military, what they've developed in order.
Yeah, true.
Whatever propulsion system that vehicle had, it was able, because if you can control gravity, you can make like a shield around yourself so that you can stop and start on a dime, and the people inside don't like explode.
Yeah, right. You can do a ton with gravity. I mean, there's even theories, when you talk about Einstein's theory of special relativity, about how you can control time when you deal with gravitational force.
Sure, absolutely. And the way we understand gravity now, without a giant body, we have no idea what it even is.
Jake, what do you got, bud?
See, I didn't trust that answer for a second. It's just like, okay, everything's ramping up. It's getting way too much attention. U.S. government's like, let's just tell them that we don't know. Just I don't know, weird. Ooh, get the focus off of me. And just like it's there's too much weird stuff that goes on throughout the U.S. government and all the little sections of it and stuff, like Brian was saying earlier, where the Navy doesn't talk to the Air Force. Like, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, why wouldn't they just say, yeah, we don't know, stop asking us questions? It's like, it's none of your business, we're not going to tell you. In the same reason why they don't broadcast every military aircraft that they're trying to come up with. Like, they're not out there throwing F-35 pubs out there on Google so that everyone can look it up and all of our enemies can see exactly how the F-35 works and all that stuff. They're just like, yeah, it's none of your business, we're not going to tell you
how it works 90% of the time, you mean?
Yeah. So I'm just like sitting here, I'm like, all right, so that's a lie. And then Jeff comes at us with all those different patent numbers from that one UFO episode that we did. And I was like, okay, cool. So they have patents for gravity manipulating craft. Fantastic. Who makes a patent for something they'll never be able to
so
discover?
They do have those patents. Like, I've that has like a few different people have told me that, and one of the people I interview in the film, his name is Lotus. He just goes by Lotus. You guys are gonna love him. No, I mean, like the people I interview. No, seriously, the people I interview, like it's a very good representation of all the things we're talking about, and I think not just the patents that the government holds on gravity, like the stuff they hold on free energy. It's been there for a long time. We just don't. Whatever they want us to have, we have. And unfortunately, science gets stymied by government and outside influences that, it's very unfortunate, because if a scientist could actually figure out what gravity is and the way we could use it, it would change the world. But unfortunately, the people who may have any idea, they're going to keep that so close to the chest.
Yeah. For everybody listening, if you want to look that up, the patent is US 20060145019A1. That's for the triangular spacecraft, anti-gravity spacecraft. That is an actual patent.
When was it? Does it say?
Yeah, application filed by John St. Clair, which is an important name.
Yeah.
In 2004.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us why that's an important name, Jeffrey?
Well, St. Clair is, so there's the whole idea of the 13 bloodlines, the 13 families of the Illuminati. There's actually a CIA document that's called the 13 families or the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. And St. Clair I can't remember the name that it comes from, but there's a
I
name
think
on
it's
that list.
Sanclair, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like something very similar. Sanclair became Saint Clair, and yeah, so that's one of the Illuminati bloodline families, according to the CIA document, which could be misinformation. Who knows? But just take it for face value. But I have a theory on why this got kind of swept under the rug when the Pentagon put out the whole UAP thing. And, like Brian, you were saying, the government didn't want people to go and raid Area 51, obviously. But then you have like the news, like you were saying, pumping it up and building it up in all this kind of way. So that makes me think that they really did want people to go out there. I think that there's like a cultural aspect to the whole thing where they normalized the UFOs and aliens ideas for decades and decades and decades. It's just being more and more normalized every day. And then they have an event like at Area 51, right, where you send all these people out. And, I wasn't there, so I don't know who or what kind of people were there for the most part, but I can imagine, it was there's probably a bunch of different type of people, stoners, people
Oh,
who
you
played
know the
video games.
stoners are out there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure there was important intellectuals there as well, but it makes me feel like they just seeded the culture with this idea so that when they dropped the UAP information, people were just like, okay, whatever, because we've already been so desensitized to the idea of these things being out there. So, I almost feel like they pushed it out on purpose and got people to go there on purpose, in my opinion.
Hey, everybody. Bear with us while we take this quick break.
Well, let me give you a little piece of information. I may change your theory on it. So the narrative for the storming of Area 51 event, it changed. So I basically got the idea for the film 23 days before. So the event, basically it started, so it would have been 30 days out. 7 days after the event, the Facebook event gets made, the event starts to really get news coverage. I would say I start to put the crew and everything together 21 days out. And then in the next 7 days, all the narrative changed. They were saying how it was going to be a Fry Festival. They were telling people not to go. They were actually, like all the news outlets were warning people. And you'll see this in the film. The narrative changed. Like you'll see something like they were threatening to shoot people if they went. And they got the guy, Matty Blake, who created the event. They got him to do his event, change it to in Las Vegas. And the interview that like he was terrified. The guy got totally scared out of it. So I can tell you without a doubt that the event was a cultural phenomenon for 14 days. And for the next 10 to 12 days, it was literally bad. Don't go, you'll die. You're not going to, like, it's bad. So I think there were some outside forces that changed the narrative. And I can tell you from someone who is prepping to film a movie there, like for sure the narrative changed. So
yeah, I can see that, but it makes me wonder if that was like some kind of weird psyop. It's like it's like telling the kid not to put his hand in the cookie jar, and he's going to do it.
I mean, I think the
A
psyop
reverse
was.
psychology thing.
Well, I think the psyop was getting it just to minimize whatever was going to happen, and they did a good job. They definitely stymied it, but they did. You can't stop anything like that completely. But it's a huge difference in controlling 20,000 people as it is to 3,000.
True.
That's a huge difference. I mean, and then you get up to 100,000 people, you can't do nothing. You can't control a mob like that.
Well, the only reason I say that as my theory is because, like if they really didn't want any attention on it, then the media wouldn't have put any attention on it. I feel like there's got to be, again, I'm the conspiracy guy here, so I like to think that whatever media narrative there is, whatever they're saying, the opposite is probably true. So, I have this, and also that they're in cahoots with government organizations. So, I
Well,
see
okay,
like,
hold on. Everything is a cahoots, like
well,
one way or the other.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
I mean,
For sure. But it just makes me wonder, like, did they try to like maybe lessen the crowd, but still give it enough attention, knowing that it would send a few thousand people over there?
well, but sometimes you understand that like avalanches occur just because there's so much pressure built up.
True.
And this was an avalanche, it wasn't like, and it's something that just has to happen. And if you can just control the avalanche a little bit, then they did their job. And I think that's kind of what it was about. An avalanche occurred because pressure had built up, but they controlled it to the best of their ability. And that's why, like, I can't wait because you're going to see footage like you never have of this event. Like you go, trust me, when we got home, I had 33 hours of footage to edit, and because of the pandemic, all kinds of stuff. The editing of the movie took years, but I watched every piece of news footage that was out there, and nothing really encapsulates what the event was and what these people even were there for than what I did. And it wasn't just me. Like, let me give credit before we go any further. Jeffrey McNeil, the editor of the movie, I've been working with him for years, and I knew that if I got this footage, he could really put it over the top. And this film, look, the working budget of this movie is about $111,000. What you're about to see, most people on the planet couldn't do for $500,000, and I'm very proud of that. And it's because a lot of people, like a lot of the crew, they worked really hard, and everybody that was on it, I pushed them just hard enough to like help create some greatness, but without quitting, and that to me, like, that's something that I don't know if people are going to, when they watch the movie, I don't know if they're going to be able to see it. They're not going to be able to see that. They're not. I don't even know what I'm saying. But I would like to express that because it's in this alien UFO conspiracy subculture, as you guys know, there's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of animosity. People, like, if you step out on a limb, people are so quick to tear you down. And I knew if I was going to make a project for this community, like, it had to be it had to be able to handle the firing squad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so many factions. It's like any of these theories, really, or whatever you want to call them. It's like there's so many factions of, like, ask Jeremy about the Bigfoot factions.
Wait,
right?
hold on. Can I go down the line? And I want to ask, because I really think this is a wonderful podcast, and you guys all bring something very unique. But I'm very curious. I just want to hear what every one of your guys's, what your number one conspiracy theory or number one kind of esoteric thought is. Like the thing that like kind of maybe haunts you or keeps you up at night, or something that nobody but you believes in. Like I don't need a dissertation, but I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Like Jeremy, go ahead. Let me hear. What's yours, Jeremy?
Well, the listeners will be very familiar with this, but I'm a humongous Bigfoot believer because I saw one when I was 9 years old.
Okay. So my question is, no. And the Bigfoot's a great theory. Now my question is, do you think Bigfoot is a humanoid or just another species? Like, what do you think it is then? Because you have to have an explanation for what it is.
It's such a tough question. Honestly, I don't. But I want to go with the Occam's razor, thing, and just say this is just an animal that lives in the woods. It's a little smarter than everything else out there and just doesn't want to be found. That's why we haven't found it.
Okay, well, where's the evolutionary tree on this? Was it because so there's got to be some human aspects to it. So then at some point in time, genetically, some animal was mixed with human DNA? Is that what I
No, I don't think so. I
just
think
think it's another species altogether?
Well, I mean, there's the whole theory about Gigantopithecus blacki and how, it could have came over through the Barren Land Strait from Russia to Alaska and down.
Yeah.
This is pretty much the same path as Native Americans took. A lot of people don't know this, but Native Americans actually share a lot of the same DNA and bloodlines as early Asian cultures.
In the Mongolians.
Yeah, and Mongolians, exactly. And they also took that trip through the Barren Land Strait. And this could be just another creature. I mean, if you look over in that area of the world, you have the Yeren and the Yeti that also are plaguing the forests and the creative minds over there. The people that are looking into the shadows are trying to find upright walking hairy people out in the middle of the woods too, when they have their own names. They just don't call them Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And if you follow the path that the natives were supposed to have taken, I mean, what's to say that a Gigantopithecus blacki couldn't have taken that same path? I mean, we know that Gigantopithecus lived in Asia. It was there. Could it just be a very small population of Gigantopithecus? It could. Could it be do we know for a fact that the Neanderthals were hairless, for the most part? No, we don't. I mean, shit. I mean, it could even be the Neanderthal. I'm not too big.
Where were you when you saw it?
I was in New England.
Well, I guess it changed your life, huh?
It did. And that's why I built this podcast.
Oh, beautiful. Jeff, what about you?
Man, that's a tough question, man. But I'd have to say probably something along the lines of like Project Bluebeam.
Refresh my memory. What's Bluebeam? I know I've heard this.
Project Bluebeam's where the governments of the world fake some sort of second coming or alien invasion.
Sure. False flag, an alien false flag. Sure.
Right, to bring about the one world government, all that good stuff. That's probably one of my favorite.
Now, I wasn't going to go too far down the rabbit hole, but when I brought up the government releasing that information, but that's what terrifies me the most, because I think it's a big setup for alien false flag.
Right.
And, I mean, that's like, I have, again, no reason, like no factual reason to think that, other than historically speaking, it's that the government usually has its own self-interest in mind, not actually the people.
Right. Which is why I brought up that theory a few minutes ago about it just being some weird psyop, because I do believe that the government has been, seeding not just our population, but the world's population. The world's governments have been seeding the world's populations with this idea of aliens, extraterrestrials, when they very well could be beings from inside the earth, or they could just be craft or drones, or who knows what they are.
You know what's crazy is I always tell people I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know every conspiracy theory in and out, back and forth.
Come hang out with me for a few shows, man, and I'll get you on board.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2. God, I knew it. Jake, what about you?
I'm surprised Jeff didn't talk about the dinosaurs being fake. That's one of our shows that are coming up.
We'll get there, bud.
We'll get there.
I might argue that one, but
wow, I mean,
the Earth is just so old. The Earth is just so old. Like the history that has been, the amount of knowledge that has been lost on this planet is incredible. Like it's mind-boggling that it's literally taught that prior civilizations were barely, were stick-carrying people that could barely communicate. And that's not only a lie, it's constantly disproven and just shoved, into some closet or some museum basement because it can't be categorized. It's really sad that that people aren't taught to look a little deeper like about what has and has not happened on this planet, because there's so much. Now, the dinosaurs, I'd need to know your timeline of when you think it didn't happen, but there's been a lot of stuff on this planet that has been lost or forgotten, to never be remembered, and that's a point I would love to argue in the dinosaur conversation.
Oh, we could do that in the future. That
yeah. This is your time, Jake.
I have a problem with the evolutionary theory, because it is a theory and there's a lot of assumptions, and that just leads down a long hole. But
there's 100%. Our DNA, the progress of our evolution has been exponential in the last 100 years or so. What I'd say 200. The way our DNA and from early times to now, there's been some type of adjustments, and I don't believe the evolutionary timeline makes sense with how we actually evolve. So there's a missing link somewhere. I would say that would be the alien influence. If you want to know, like, a far out theory, that would be like, if aliens ever did come to the planet, it would be whoever would be the Anunnaki. They would have somehow altered our DNA for us to become some type of worker bees for them for some reason, whatever.
Don't get me on a whole other show, man. We'll be here all night.
Sure. But that, I mean, for evolution to really make sense, someone has to alter our DNA, and for their, for whatever reason, maybe in their same image. Again, this is something that I time and time again, it's been brought to my attention, but how to actually, for someone like me to actually make that missing link, viable, for people to understand that it's really there. I would love to do that. Like, if I could do another, I don't know, like, I would like to move into real movies, but if I could do another documentary, I would love to do it about science that gets brushed under the rug. Science that gets, because the scientific community used to be all about innovation. Now, because it's so funded by big business, it's about grants and getting published and continued funding. It's not about innovation, because innovation means someone in the past was wrong. And that's very hard to do when university money is so dependent on, studies.
Yeah. Well, I've got some plugs for you. We'll talk after the show. I'll send you some people that you could probably make a kick-ass movie.
Yeah, see, that again, the universe presents you the things, right when you need them. Jake, what's your what's your big thing?
I'm on board with Jeremy on this one. It's Bigfoot.
What? Two Bigfooters?
Yeah, I didn't care at all. I didn't think about it prior to Jeremy approaching me with his story, but it was crazy and visceral, and I still didn't really believe him too much. And we started doing this podcast and stuff, and we started meeting with people that kind of showed me what to look for and stuff. And this last camping trip I had like 5 months ago had some pretty crazy experiences. Got all the tree knocks and the screaming in the woods, and saw a footprint, like just like all sorts of stuff. So for me, I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see one.
Hold the horses. Okay, there's two things that I want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
First, if you really wanted to experience all that stuff, the mind has a very funny way.
So here's the thing. So there was 10 adults there, and everyone heard the exact same thing. They all started talking about it the next day. They were like I have this huge game, right? That's just like, yeah, if I saw a Bigfoot, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't breathe or move while this was going on, right? I was in my sleeping bag, just locked in. And the drunk people that were, maybe 3/4 of a mile or so away from us in the next campsite over, because it was pretty much a just find a spot and stay there sort of a thing, out there in the boonies. And they were out there screaming, they had their music, and you can hear, and then this started happening, and they went dead silent, and then the music turned off, and it was just tree knocks and these loud guttural, like really deep throated screams out into the woods, just just like it was crazy. And then the next morning, everyone was just chattering about it, like, "Oh my gosh, did you hear that? That was crazy!" Like no one would shut up about it.
And it wasn't just some dude on meth, right?
I mean, it is California, but we were way far away from Fresno.
Okay.
You know, like way out there.
Because...
And so I grew up in Fresno, and yeah, definitely would have been meth in Fresno.
Yeah,
but
well, when you say boonies, that's usually what I attribute to.
It was up in Dinky Creek.
Where's this?
Just past Shaver Lake.
Okay.
So basically, and it's crazy too, because we went up there, and Shaver Lake, 2 years ago, got hit by that massive fire. That whole area burned up.
Yeah.
Shaver Lake is just matchsticks. It's crazy. But just past it, like 10 miles more north, you hit Dinky Creek, and it's lush and green. And, we had the pandemic that shut down all the forestry areas because they couldn't get employees to go work there and stuff like that. So every place was closed up, and we had the fires. So for 2 years, these animals just pushed up into that area and were just chilling out. Actually, we were shooting my hunting rifle at a tree, and we turned around, and this big old gnarly buck was just standing there staring at us like 30 yards behind us. There was no fear whatsoever. It was just like, oh, hey, just kind of hanging out. Wow. It was so weird, but like that was like the area where it was experienced, and it would make sense. Like if this is another animal that's out there, I believe it is. I'm a Christian guy, right? I believe that God created everything. That's no evolution or anything. That's just another type of animal. Like we have all the various types of great apes that they look similar, but they're slightly different, right? Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, all that sort of stuff. This could just be another one. I believe that Gigantopithecus existed. I'm gonna let Jeff try to say that dinosaurs aren't real. I'm gonna let him go, but I don't think that we evolved from anything. I think this is just another type of animal. But why would it be not where the food source is? And in that case, it would be the untouched, unburned area. But it was absolutely mind blowing. And it was like, but I agree with you, right? If you're out there and you're just like, I'm gonna see one, anything, be like, I saw a leaf, it's proof, but it's just like. It was pretty nuts. It was crazy.
How much of a Christian are you?
Very.
You believe Jesus walked on water?
Yeah. He's God.
I mean,
if he could create. So
I'm not saying anything's wrong with
well,
it, but that's usually a question that allows me to determine someone's level of belief.
If I believe that God created all this, he put the physics in place, he put the way the universe works together in place, then why couldn't he be outside of that and defy those laws that he created as God? Because the Bible says that Jesus made all of this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and everything was made. Everything that I'm really, you know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying?
I've studied religion very thoroughly, but my point that I usually bring to the table on this is like, so the story tells you the beginning. Well, the beginning is a lot further back than what the story's talking about. And so that is where a problem for me in this particular story comes in, just because I believe the history of this planet and this human form, as we know, may be very, it may be very, very new. Like what was occupied the planet before, who knows? I mean, I'm not smart enough to explain, but I know the history of the planet goes back much further than what I believe the Bible in any interpretation explains.
There's a pastor and apologist, really smart guy named Frank Turek, and he put it really well. He does this like little YouTube shorts, shows called Cross Examined. Basically, he does college campuses. People ask questions, Q&A sort of stuff, and whether they're Christians or other faiths or atheists or whatever it is, he does debates and everything. But he, someone was really going hard into the like theory of evolution and stuff, and he said, even if evolution is real, it doesn't take anything away from Christ. If we,
I can tell you that J-Man was probably a cool dude,
and that was like,
was probably a really great guy.
Yeah, I mean, but and I was sitting here like there's two sides of the fence. There's either the creationist or the evolutionist. And he was like, even if you believe in evolution, it doesn't take anything away from Jesus, right?
Oh, totally.
Even if he died for your sins and all that stuff, it doesn't take anything away from that. So, when it comes down to it, for me, the whole, where do we come from? Is the creation story like, geez, all the sects in Christianity that believe that either it was a literal 7 days or it was 7 time frames, all that sort of stuff, it makes no difference to me. Because it's just like, it's a fun talking point.
You're a man of
but
faith,
it's like,
yeah.
it's a fun talking point, but it's just like, but at the same time, I can agree with you. There's also sects of Christianity where they're like, no, it was 7 days and this is a young earth that's made to look old. And then there's other people that say, well, it was 7 periods of time and this is an old earth. And maybe the dinosaurs and all those sorts of things and the sloths the size of minivans were all made just prior to man being created. So yeah, there's a lot of, division and all that sort of stuff. When it comes down to it, I'm pretty hardcore in my faith, and Bigfoot's just another animal. A big, scary, hairy beast that screams and ruins campers' sleep.
When you see something like Göbekli Tepe, what do you think? Do you know anything about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey?
Jeff mentioned something about it in one of our episodes.
Come on, Jake. I educated you, bro. You don't remember?
Dude, I brain dumped yesterday.
Quiz.
All right.
Jake, come on.
Göbekli Tepe, man. This is where they dug up this spot in Turkey, and it was apparently purposely buried, 11,500 years ago or 11,000?
Yeah, approximately 11,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But it was sophisticated, but it was intentionally, obviously constructed with 50, 70 ton rocks with and they great carvings from animals that weren't even indigenous to the area.
Yeah. So when it comes to that kind of goes into my belief about the level of intelligence and sophistication in society, I guess. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, that people were pre-flood. Like, what could cause people to be so bad that God flooded the earth and killed everybody except for one family? And that's, I have no issue believing that prior to most of, because that was in Genesis, prior to Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Moses and, the Israelites and all that stuff. I think that there were societies on the earth that were, for one, plagued with sin. So God killed them all after giving them generations and generations and generations to repent, but they never did. But also, I think that if people were allowed to just do whatever they wanted to and have their endeavors and just go for, I think that people have always been as smart as they are now. There's always those outliers, the people that are super duper smart. Like if my phone hardcore broke today, like I replaced the screen, but if it hardcore broke today, I would have no idea how to fix it. And if all those people died right now that knew how to fix that phone, we would go back to the oldest, crappiest model of phone because we'd have nothing else, right? I think those people have always existed. They've always been able to have the resources at their disposal and be able to do amazing, incredible things or horrible things with them. I think that civilizations like that probably existed and they were all over the place and they were, just mind-bogglingly intelligent, more so than people give them credit for. But then that history, that technology, all that stuff was lost and maybe buried underneath 100 miles of sediment. And then we had to start from scratch.
Well, I can totally agree that, I can agree with the point that there was definitely a major flood on this planet that wiped out a lot of stuff. What caused that flood? You and I will probably always disagree. I would never believe in a God that murders an entire planet, but whatever caused the flood did change the course of this planet. And I just hope that I never see that in my days. And I'm going to go historically speaking, since it hasn't happened in however many thousands of years, I'm going to hope we can make it, because I feel like the world that you're describing that got destroyed is very close to the one that is now.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that I'm shocked that the United States still exists as we know it. because Sodom and Gomorrah only got so bad before they were burned up, and we're at least we have to be getting somewhere close. But at the same time, have you looked
what
into
is close? What is close when you're talking billions of years? Really, what is like you have no idea. This could be this could be the 100th iteration.
I mean, yeah. Have you checked out the Yellowstone supervolcano? That could go up tomorrow, and then 98% of the Earth is gone.
Again, like I say, I usually I have had the end of the world predicted to me quite a few times.
No, this one could happen at any time. It could happen in the next 10 minutes.
Of course, and this is what I always tell people, the same thing. It could happen, but historically speaking, it hasn't, and that's why predicting the end of the world is so difficult, because it only happens one time.
Yeah, if it's from a Christian perspective, saying that this is when the world's going to end, like what was 2012 was a big one, right? There's definitely a very well-known passage in the Bible that says no one knows the day or the hour, not the angels in heaven, only the Father. So for anyone to say, well, this is when it's going to end, I mean, they just need to crack that dusty bad boy open and read a couple verses and just be like, oh, never mind, I'm probably wrong, you know?
What about you, Kenzar? What, don't tell me Bigfoot. I'll be so sad if you say Bigfoot.
The Wendigo.
No. So I've always been into a little bit of everything. Bigfoot does interest me, but not as much as it interests everybody else here, apparently. Lately, I find myself getting really into flat Earth.
Yes, dude.
I'm really digging the flat Earth theory and the whole idea around that lately. I love the idea of the Arctic ice wall or the Antarctic ice wall, whatever that is. Like, there's just so much. There's so much to it, and it's so interesting.
Well, I think the most incredible thing about that is magnification from a distance. Like when they say you should be able to see the curvature from a boat all the way out, well, you can magnify something however 500x and you can still see it. Well, you should really only be seeing the top of the boat.
Are you a flat earther, Brian?
No, but I'm just saying that of all, I say, I know every conspiracy theory in and out. And I can tell you the high points of them all. And I would say that is the high point of that theory for me.
Yeah,
yes.
I feel that. I'll just say I go back and forth between being a flat earther and not a flat earther, probably on the daily. But
why? And you picked Bigfoot above that?
I didn't pick Bigfoot. I picked Blue
Oh
Beam.
no, sorry. That's right.
No.
So wait, why do you go back and forth day? Like, what is because and for me,
because here's the thing is knowing the proper flat Earth model. There's so many disinformation flat Earth models out there, like the Flat Earth Society, definitely government opposition and government controlled opposition. And it's just if you know the proper model, not to say that it's correct, but if you know the proper flat Earth model, it's really, really hard to debunk those things. And all I ever see online is people debunking the bullshit model, and nobody even knows the proper model. So when you sit down and actually figure out what that proper model is, it's super hard to debunk. So I like space. I play space video games. I love space movies. I like to think that we're in space sometimes. You know what I mean? But then I
but
run
it's
around
fake.
and exactly. I tell people that space is fake. And by that, I mean, it's not what we're told. We're not given the whole truth and nothing but the truth about space. And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, bro, it is flat. And then other days I'm like, maybe not. I don't know. I'm a psychopath.
Yeah, I lean more towards with Jeff on a lot of things, actually. I don't know if it's actually flat. I don't. I would love to know the answer to that question, though. But it's still so very interesting to look into. And like Jeff said, space is definitely not what they tell us it is.
Welcome to the dark side, Kenzar.
Brian,
let's do a flat Earth movie, bro.
Waterworld?
I wish I had the ability to speak firsthand you know, I would absolutely love to see for myself. I think this planet is such a beautiful place, and I've had the fortune of traveling to remote places, and I can't, I in my mind, like, I understand the flat earth theory, but I just can't imagine that we're not this celestial body in floating in space because of, you know, all the astronomy that I've studied, and I've actually seen, you know, Alpha Centauri, you know, like, I've seen the galaxies, I've seen them, and to think that we are just a flat disk and that is some remote that is just some thing put in, I don't know, we're just like a tiny little video game or something. I don't know. The flat earth theory would have to lead into us just maybe being in a simulation of some kind in some kind of biodome, right? And then like the remote galaxies that I'm seeing are just like wallpaper. Like, you know how you'd put those stars on your ceiling as a kid that would glow in the dark?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Like, so that's what I'm looking at. I just
Yeah.
find that I can't
It's just
make that jump, you know.
Think of the
because
Truman Show.
it's the seeding though,
Yeah,
right?
the Truman
So
Show. Sure, yeah.
it's just the seeding or
Predictive
the
programming.
indoctrination. That's the argument against that particular thing is, you know, yeah, we all see the lights or the luminaries in the sky, but only because we were taught that they're celestial bodies in an infinite space. That's what we automatically assume that they are. But who knows? I mean, for thousands of years, those were the gods, or those were the angels, or those were the luminaries, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, it's just about whatever that perception is given to you when you're a small child is what you think you're seeing. You know, because I see it too. Don't get me wrong. You know, I had a telescope at one point, and and it wasn't a good telescope, it was a little cheap fucking telescope. But you could look up and you could see stuff, and you'd be like, oh, you could see the rings around Saturn. But it's like, is that rings around a planet, or is that a luminary that just represents something? And because of the way that it's shaped and looked, these astronomers have told us that that is a, you know, a spherical body with rings around it. And it's like, who knows? Nobody will ever know the answer to that question, just like most of these questions.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's hard.
a lot smarter people than us have tried to explain and have failed. So don't feel bad if you don't get to a conclusion today. But I think searching for the answers is always the way.
Yeah, for sure. But it is super fascinating. I'm with Kenzar. That's probably like in my top 3. You know, it's a super fascinating idea. You know, even if it's complete bullshit, just the idea that there's more lands beyond the Antarctic ice walls and the extraterrestrials are just beings from other lands out beyond, you know, where we're allowed to go. Like, that would make a great movie. Like a good sci-fi. Give me some CGI. Like, there's some deep stuff there.
I think so too. Oh, I absolutely think so. I hope and pray I'm able to make a real sci-fi movie one day, like a real, make you think, kind of keep you on the edge of your seat sci-fi. And you know, if I don't ever get there, so what? But I hope, and when you guys watch this movie, I just want you to know, like, all this stuff that I'm talking about, like, this is stuff that I took years to kind of think about and formulate and research and find my own opinion. And the whole thing about Dreamland, it's simply an expression of that in just this one area, in the area of like UFOlogy, and kind of I touch on religion and space and like government. So I just, you know, I like when I say some of these things, I just want to let you know that a lot of it to me, it's like, it's about having faith in yourself, because I believe we're the gods. I believe that we are able to create and do sometimes magical things, but you have to believe, like, you have to believe on a level that's almost unexplainable. and your faith, like you were talking about before, is something that I am very, I'm appreciative of and cognizant, because having a certain level of faith, like it takes a very thoughtful person to get there, and sometimes, yes, like there's bad on everything. It's the bell curve,
Mm-hmm.
but to have an open mind and be able to discuss topics in a very inviting way is something that I think is really wonderful. And you guys have a great podcast here that has such a interesting combination of individuals. Like, you guys should be very proud of yourself. This has been really wonderful.
No, I appreciate that. We pride ourselves in not being an echo chamber. We have our own ideas, our own ideas, our own
Bigfoot stuff.
He's convinced me. And then Jeff told me that all the images of space are fake, and I looked it up, and it just destroyed my like, I had to delete all my space pictures off my desktop. I thought it was the coolest thing. All these galaxy pictures, all fake, CGI.
You had to throw away his mouse pad.
It's not exactly CGI. It's our best interpretation of the light waves.
Artist renditions.
Color by numbers is what it is.
One is blue, two is red.
It's really funny. There's this it was supposed to be this telescope technology, like $10,000, this telescope that you can bring out anywhere. And it's like it connects Bluetooth with your phone, and you can like point on the galaxy, and it sits there, and it's supposedly taking like these images. And I have this theory, like, that it's simply just a box that looks like a telescope, and it's downloading the shit. And it just sends it to your phone, and it's like, here, I took this photo.
What's interesting about that is there's a guy out there, some people may know him, Crow 777. He's the guy who filmed the lunar wave. He's got one of those super nice, like the best telescope that civilians can buy. And he has time and time again shown videos of things like the moon having a refresh rate, and the what we call planets, the luminaries in the skies, have refresh rates like they're either a hologram or there's some kind of something. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, I mean, there's something. I mean, there's stuff on the moon. Like, there's stuff on the moon that Chinese
the
rovers.
Moon is crazy. There's definitely something going on up there.
in all of the planetary story, the moon size, shape, its usage to the Earth, usefulness to the Earth is highly unexplainable. Like, it's almost too perfect. Like, the intelligent design of it, the way it affects the tides,
perfect size. And
exactly. Like, it's very strange. It's very, very strange.
It's a simulation, bro. We live in a simulation.
Well, that I can get behind. I can totally get behind the simulation theory.
My thing with the moon is I always see the same side of it, and I've read up on how the moon spins around us and blah blah blah, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my head.
The only celestial object that rotates in the direction that it rotates in, if that's what it is.
Yeah, if it's, I again, remember, science, as I was talking about before, it's not, we're in a time that's very scary for progression of thought, because real scientists aren't promoted for showing that someone else was wrong. Like, they're usually, especially in today's society, and this has kind of always been the case, for when innovation is made, scientists are maligned, and they're called heretics, or devil force, or whatever it may be. Science now has gotten to the point where it's been so suppressed because big business funds it, and it's all directional science. It's like, we want you to study this and get this result. So especially some of that planetary stuff, if there's real science behind it, we're not going to hear about it, because these scientists are called quacks, and they're they're laughed out of their industries. And people have jobs to keep and families to feed, and unfortunately I don't know how. I hate to express a problem and not have a solution, or at least an idea for solution, but this one's a really tough one because science is so dependent on funding. And where does the funding come from anymore? It's like Vanguard owns everything. It's like you can't get away from who funds the science, and that doesn't, that stymies innovation completely. Like it does. Like people aren't going to call out bad science because they're afraid of what it's going to do to their career.
Hey, Brian, I have a quick question for you. I want to round back to your movie real quick. I've had this question on my mind for a minute now. I kind of want to just get it out there.
Yeah.
So you put a tremendous amount of work into this project, and you had mentioned how, like, the news reports started coming out, and then you guys got there, and then you just started shooting, and you're just like, let's just go. Did you have an idea of doing something, I don't know, alien or UFO related prior to this, and this was just like the perfect storm of events where you're just like, fantastic, let's go with it? Or was it more like, I want to do a project and I want to figure out what's the best project for me to do, and then suddenly this popped up and you're like, that'll work?
Well, I'm a very I work on this every day, and I'm not always as great at it as I think I am, but I try to be very open to the signs of the universe. And I like to be busy. I like to be working on things. And I knew I had a chance to make my own movie. I just I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I knew I could do a Curb Your Enthusiasm style movie where there was no script. If I got a good cast together, I could give them direction and beats to hit, and they, behave how they're how they choose to, because you're going to see some things in this film. I just want you guys to be clear. I did not instruct these people to do or say some of this stuff. This was all on them. I say, there wasn't a script. And some of the stuff, I had no idea how I was going to make a coherent story with it, but it worked. but it worked out. So to answer your question, I knew that I could make a film that was run and gun. I just didn't know. I didn't know what was going to be the driving force. And the Area 51 thing, I was literally at a bar in a small town in Ohio, like a bar called Janky's. I swear that was the name. And this guy was sitting next to me. He, I tell him I'm a comedian. He looks me up. He goes to the bathroom, comes back. All of a sudden, he's my biggest fan. And we're talking about, because my Instagram name is Moreno the Alien. So we start talking about alien stuff. And he's like, you should go to Area 51 and interview people. And that was literally the seed. And you know how some seeds grow at a lot faster. Some ideas grow at a much faster rate than other ideas. And that one, it just exploded. And that was 24 days before the event. And 23 is when I got the idea. Because I'm like, should I just hire a film crew to sit in my back seat and try? And I'm like, that sucks. Like, that's a YouTube,
Yeah.
I'm for YouTube. And I'm like, for me to make a real movie. And I was told by everyone, you can't make a movie this fast. It's impossible. Well,
there you go.
That inspired me even more.
That's awesome.
Tell a man he can't do something, because then he'll go and do it, or whatever.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, man. But yeah, man, we're probably gonna wrap this up because it's past my bedtime. I'm an old man over here. But before we go, Brian, if you want to take a minute and just plug all your shit real quick, so everybody knows where to find you and all that good stuff.
I'm pretty easy to find. Brian Moreno, comedian. Moreno the Alien on all social media, Moreno. But the really great thing to support right now is Dreamland, Area 51 movie.com. We have some really great merchandise on there. We make some great shirts. Anything, any support you have is much appreciated. But keep your eyes out for this movie. Follow the Dreamland Area 51 movie on Instagram. It helps the algorithm, and that's where I try to post all my alien stuff or whatever is on that Instagram, or you know, whatever it may be. I say alien, but I don't even know what that is.
Well, that was awesome. You know, we had a curveball thrown at us today, and geez, Jeff slammed it right out of the park. Brian, what an interview. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys. I genuinely meant what I said. You guys have a great dynamic. You all have a very interesting take on things. And I think, I thank your listeners, and I think they really have you guys have a great podcast here, and they probably get very enlightened through all of you. And that is, you know, that's beautiful work that you're doing.
Well, I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that, man. Really do.
Anyways, well, I guess I got to close it out since I opened it up, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. You have
Get
to.
at her.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this awesome episode of Infinite Rabbit Hole. Thanks again to Brian. Thanks again to Jeremy, Jake, and Kenzar for joining me on my show. I appreciate it. Jeremy loves that joke. No, it's been fun. It's been real. The next topic, should I give him the next topic?
Do we have the next topic?
I mean, am I doing my thing next weekend or next week?
You are.
Okay,
yes.
so next week, we touched on it a little bit here. I'm doing the Dinosaurs Never Existed episode.
Yes.
Dinosaurs are fake. So keep an eye out for that. I've got plenty of it to go around. I might be bringing on a guest who's an quote unquote expert in this topic. It's still to be determined.
You gonna bring on Brian too?
Yeah, Brian's coming on to tell us why dinosaurs are
We're gonna
fake.
fight.
Yeah. I might have some counterpoints.
No, that's cool, man. But yeah, everybody, make sure you check out Brian on all his socials. Make sure you follow the Area 51, Storming Area 51 Dreamland film when it drops. And that's it. Anything else,
All right.
anybody?
Nope, that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining us on this path of the infinite rabbit hole. We will see you next week.
Bye.